What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick. I'm the host, Devin. Sherdog.com is a website. Social media handles are there. UFC belt is up there. Signs right there. We're back with another episode. Pretty interesting weekend of fights. Main event was a little lackluster, in my opinion, but that is what it is. We got UFC Noche coming up this weekend at the Sphere, and we're going to talk about some fights. We're going to just jump right into the first segment of the show, out with the old. We're actually not going to talk about the main event. Shillen and Duffy recap show. They had, saying we, it's not mine. They had a guest speaker on this past weekend, and they broke down all of the odds and ends, did a whole entire recap of the card. So if you want to hear about the main card, go to YouTube, wherever you're listening to this, go to Sherdog.com. You can find that. A lot of people are going to be talking about that main event, and I didn't think it was that great. Gilbert looked okay, but he's 38, and I'm still not 100% convinced on Sean Brady. Good performance, but we're going to talk about men's bantamweights that are actually flyweights. I'm going to shine a little bit of light on Matt Schnell because he retired and the UFC refused to do so. If your name is the Karate Hottie, Michelle Watterson, you can have a similar career in the UFC to Matt Schnell, I guess, and get a whole entire send-off package, but poor Matt Schnell gets nothing. And Cody Durden freaking showed up on 4 days' notice and put on a good-ass fight. So we're going to talk about that. Cody Durden submitting Matt Schnell in the second round via, they called it an anaconda choke. It's a ninja choke. Double tap from Schnell, which is always fucking cool when you get someone to do a double tap. You know, he's tapping with two hands. This fight was an absolute barn burner. And Schnell, like, first round was really close. They both like just went to war on the feet, and it seemed like Schnell was actually able to land the better shots and do the better impact, but they both got a lot done. I mean, the first round was a razor close round. Cody Durden is kind of like the Matt Schnell 2.0. Both of these guys look good, and I'm kind of sad to see Matt Schnell go away. I understand why. Like, he's been, his losses aren't just losses, they're finishes. And he's had the opportunity to retire from much more devastating losses. Like, this was not a knockout loss where he was flatlined. His chin seemed fine. He took some big shots from Cody Durden. Cody Durden, believe it or not, from what I heard, Cody Durden had fought out his contract his last time out against Bruno Silva, where he looked incredible, and then he ended up just getting hurt and finished, where he was like cruising with like 10-8 shit, doing incredible. And then he just got stung up by Bruno Silva, who is a big puncher. Supposedly, Durden, though, had fought out his contract and was not re-signed. So this fight got him a new contract. So he's back off a 4-fight deal. I don't know. You remove the weight class, remove the names and everything, and you just like grab a random friend that doesn't know anything about MMA, and you show them the first round of this fight. And then you could show them the first round of, I don't know, every heavyweight fight that's not a Tom Aspinall fight, and ask them what they thought was cooler, and they're all going to say this fight. I don't know who was doing the play-by-play for Sherdog, but bless their heart, and good for them that they didn't have to do 3 rounds of this fight, because doing play for I can't even give you the X's and O's just because there was so much that happened. Both of these guys had a ton of success striking. Like I said, Cody Durden seemed to actually be more impacted, which is what the judges are looking for, impact, more impacted by the damaging blows from Schnell. But in the second round, Schnell just shot a takedown like from the freaking Monster logo, and Durden was like in the warning track, like he was behind the black line. You know, I'm exaggerating, but he shot this takedown from fucking states away. Like, he shot he's a Louisiana guy, and they're fighting in the Apex. He shot this takedown from Shreveport, Louisiana. I think that's where he's from. But he shot this thing from Louisiana. and he tried to scramble out. Chanel is a good fighter. He's not bad technically, really. He just has these momentary lapses. Got Cody Durden slapped on that choke, and it was curtains. This fight was up at 135 just due to the short notice. Cody Durden got a bonus, got his win bonus. He also didn't have to pay his corner. His wife was in his corner. So, like, homie did the Mike Perry thing. Won. Only thing he was missing was walking out to Halo. That was also a really funny moment. If you guys don't recall, can't recall, I believe it was his first fight with his now wife Latori, where Mike Perry told the team to play Halo. He was thinking of like the OG Xbox, Halo music, and he got Beyonce's Halo, and he just said F it and went with it. Just awesome. Really, really funny stuff. You should, there's a million clips of it, Twitter, YouTube, just go find it. Really funny. But yeah, Cody Durden, man, he's good. Both of these dudes were ranked flyweights, so it's kind of interesting to know that one of them like put his gloves in the middle. It's kind of sad too. Like Brendan Fitzgerald was like, "Oh, and just in case you didn't know, Matt Chanel just retired. We think, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out." Bye. And then Durden, I guess, wasn't being re-signed. Look, we understand. Like, we had Andre Lima just win a fight this past weekend, and he looked fine. It didn't. He fought Felipe Dos Santos as a 23-year-old who actually kind of went to war with Manal Cop. The UFC, if you're listening to this, put your stake into Cody Durden. Guys like Cody Durden that are flyweights, don't put stake into Andre Lima. Like, Andre Lima's a good fighter. He's young. He's 25 years old, but he's not fighting these incredibly fun fights, and the highlight of his career is going to probably be being bitten on the Contender Series and getting that tattoo. Yeah, he's going to pick up tons of wins. He's a good mixed martial artist, but like, if you want the flyweight division to stay alive, I don't think they do, but if they want the flyweight division to stay alive, like, you need Matt Schnells, you need Cody Durdens, you need these types of guys around. It sucks to see Matt Schnell leave because, like, he could totally win fights in the UFC, especially the way that the men's flyweight division is structured today. There's totally fights he can win there. And maybe we'll see him in like BKFC or something. We know the UFC lets those guys do that. Sip of water. We know the UFC lets their guys go to BKFC and do fights there. Chad Mendes being one of them, Eddie Alvarez being another. He's probably going to go put on like 15 pounds and go fight someone in BKFC and probably do well, because Schnell's not that bad, and a lot of the dudes in BKFC aren't good. As for Cody Durden, like, the kid's good. He's a good fighter. He's going to have these weird momentary lapses, and I wish he didn't have all of his weird rhetoric a few fights ago, but he seemed to definitely, package that up and be better about it. And, he's entitled to his feelings and beliefs. I probably don't agree with them, but as long as he doesn't boast about them online and when he gets a mic in his face, I'm even better. So good for him. Who should he fight next? He's ranked number 15. He just lost to Bruno Silva. He previously lost to Tiger Ulanbekov. Ulanbekov they put up a scrap. Tim Elliott seems like what makes sense. I think there was even some banter back and forth from them. I could also see them maybe giving him a Manal Cop. I don't think Manal Cop is what we thought he was going to be in the UFC at this point. And he deserves a bump up for pulling up on short notice. 4 days notice, no corner, makes fight is at bantamweight, but he makes the weight. Yeah, it's up a division, but when you are cutting to 125 and 135 is a much easier cut than most people are doing it, but like light, heavy, and heavy. So shout out to him. He's been a professional, shown up for the UFC, came and did his thing, and really fun fight. Moving up the card, we're going to talk about the current king of violence. I know there's a guy named Eddie Alvarez and quite a few other people out there that have stake to that claim. We've got a BMF in Max Holloway, and I will never dispute Max Holloway's BMF-ness. Guys like Justin Gaethje. I can tell you what, though, none of these dudes have gone on the finish streak that Steve Garcia has in the UFC. He's currently has the most consecutive finishes out of any fighter on the whole roster. Steve Garcia goes out there and gets the clubbing ground and pound finish over Kyle Nelson first round. Shout out to the UFC on Kyle Nelson's walkout. They made it a point to talk about his new diet, because he is like a cattle farmer, rancher guy, and raises his own beef and livestock. And that's, one of his major sources of food, which is awesome. Grow your own food, take care of yourself and your family, provide the best clean food that you can grow and raise up, but don't miss weight. Don't tell me how good those burgers you ate were from the cow you raised out back if you missed weight. So Kyle Nelson missed weight. I don't want to be a dickhead and be like, oh, that's what happens when you miss weight. That's what you get, what you deserve. But like, you're supposed to fight Calvin Kattar, bro. This was supposed to be like a big opportunity for you. I don't know if you didn't take Steve Garcia seriously once the opponent got switched, and there was some time, but like Steve Garcia was the short notice replacement. Yeah, I just didn't love this performance from Kyle Nelson. He's a dude that was streaking, and I thought he's changed his ways, and maybe it's a mixture of Steve Garcia just being a mofo and just being a badass dude, and the fact that Kyle Nelson kind of does seem to quit a little bit. Let's talk about Kyle Nelson, more about Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia is a guy that when he got to the UFC, I'm like, why'd they sign this dude? I feel like I'm saying that more and more, especially with the Contender Series around now. I forget the gentleman's name, and it'll be more respectful if I don't say his name, but that guy that just fought Zachary Reese, that's literally just a walking punching bag that is not even safe. Like, should I go to my local middle school and pick fights with those kids, or is that not going to be safe for them? It's not going to be safe for them. I'm 6 feet tall and I weigh 200 pounds, and they're kids. Why is Zachary Reese fighting this guy? Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent about the UFC signing people that definitely are not UFC ready. Kyle Nelson is UFC ready. And he's a staple. He's a staple here, especially of men's Canadian MMA. And he was like the hope for men's Canadian MMA. And that's just kind of, thanks to Steve Garcia, that's gone. Beginning of the round opens up. Steve Garcia kind of slips and falls on one of the ever so slick logos. They might as well just all be Astroglide logos, smothered in Astroglide, because anytime after 2 fights in, any sort of sweat, water, bodily fluid from a fight gets on the ground, someone steps on it, it's like banana peels in the middle of the octagon. Steve Garcia slips and falls. Kyle Nelson immediately kind of secures a takedown with that trip and fall, takes the back. Steve Garcia wisely just fights the hand, stays calm. About like 2.5 minutes in, he just completely reverses the position, is now in Kyle Nelson's guard, and just lands like one posting. Like, by the way, MMA fighters, Steve Garcia said this in his post-fight interview, and if you're listening to this and you're an MMA fighter, I think this is great advice from another MMA fighter that also has the most finishes on the roster. He's got more finishes in a row than Derek Lewis today. How to be violent, and how violence is important, and how he's not a point fighter and he knows that he just needs to be violent. I think a lot of fighters try to hold back on violence to try to make it through 15 minutes. Steve Garcia seems like that's just not an option, whether he thinks his cardio is going to fail him or he just has more faith in himself and his finishing ability. But when he, fought Luis Pena and he first got to the UFC, I'm like, what are we thinking here? Now, this dude is like posting, throwing proper elbows, effing people up. Those elbows that he was landing on Kyle Nelson were some to the back of the head, maybe. But first off, was it as blatant as the Vanessa Demopoulos Amarim glove grab thing? No. And I mean, same thing as JDS and Cyril Gane. Like, is Cyril Gane notorious for hitting people in the back of the head? Maybe, but should you turn your back? Probably not. So if you are in a grounded position and you start curling up and moving your head and you start getting hit in the back of the head, and you got a guy like Steve Garcia who is just going to do violence, he's going to F you up. The first elbow that he landed was like kind of behind the ear, and it just completely, when you're on the ground, your equilibrium, you don't lose balance. You're just all out of sorts. Kyle Nelson was all out of sorts, and then just a blunder of tons of elbows and hammer fists and punches came in and just finished him. It's kind of getting to the point in Steve Garcia's career where, like, it's like if you've got an intruder knocking on your door and you open it just a crack to stick your eye out to see who's out there, and they just freaking foot the door, kick the whole door in. That's what's happening with Steve Garcia. Like, if you give this guy an inch in a fight, he turns that inch into a mile, and he's just violent, deadly, punishing, fun to watch. He stated he's coming up to my neck of the woods. Maybe I'll take him fishing. I don't know. He got $50K as well. He deserved $50,000. Incredible, violent performance. He's just stacking his chips. I think he deserves to step up. I think he should fight someone like an Andre Fili, or, it's too bad Darren Elkins is matched up against Daniel Pineda. Maybe he can fight the winner of that. Maybe like an Alex Caceres, maybe even like a Sadiq Youssef or a Edson Barbosa. Like, he deserves an opportunity. I mean, this guy's moving up. Ultimately, I landed on Bill Algeo. Sorry, I get these two guys confused. Billy Quarantillo for his next opponent, but they could, I mean, who knows, Who knows where they decide to go with him next. Dana really seems to love John Jones right now, and they're out of the same camp, so maybe that'll get him some favors. Maybe John Jones can say, hey, Dana, I have a friend named Steve Garcia, and then Dana White just gives him a title shot. I'm only kidding. Really, really good performance from Steve Garcia. Kind of a shutout, especially after facing that adversity he did. Moving on to the co-main event. This is the last fight of the card we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Natalia Silva defeating Jessica Andrade 30-27, 30-27. I think there was a 29-28 shoved in there as well. This was Natalia Silva's kind of coming out performance here. The fight kind of went exactly how I said it would, where she would pot shot from the outside. Her kicks looked really well. God, in the first round of a fight is Natalia Silva not just like a nervous ball of energy. She's, it's like shaking mixed with feints, and she's so fast and kinetic. She's got so much energy. I want to see her in a 5-round fight. And I also want to see her against an opponent that's not just going to press her. Like, I want to see what happens when someone says, okay, well, let's just have a tit for tat striking match, but I'll force you to be on the front foot. She looked great. She took some big shots from Andrade, landed some big shots of her own, staggered Andrade and froze her and made her reset several times. Incredible kicks. Her durability was there. She negated any sort of wrestling offense from Andrade, was able to get the clinch and spin out. What worries me about Natalia Silva is in the moments where Andrade went to take a break or reset, she like doesn't have a front foot game at all. Like her whole entire game. And I love Natalia Silva, but now I'm starting to be concerned where like what happens when you have an opponent that's not like Jessica Andrade and they're just willing to counterpunch with you? What, like a fighter like Rose or a fighter like Grasso or a fighter like Manon Fiorot? What if they're just like, I'm not going to get on the front foot. I'm going to be the back foot striker and you're going to go forward. What's that going to look like? Because there was a couple moments where she had to go forward, and she gets a little sloppy. She leaves her head on the center line. Also within big striking exchanges, and that's going to, someone like Garcia with fast hands and accurate tight punches and good vision could really lump her up there. She kind of almost will close her eyes and swing in the pocket. But her athleticism is just so good. I don't know why I'm saying so many negative things about her, because I like her, and maybe that's why I'm being like hypercritical. But as a Natalia Silva fan, I'm a little bit concerned with what it's going to look like when she isn't just a matador. She's really good cardio. She just needs to get a front foot striking game on, because we're going to talk about it later in this episode, but we're going to talk about pressure and volume and cardio and being on the front foot and how that helps you in an MMA fight, especially the way MMA is scored in 2024. They're not. A bad judge could have scored this fight for Andrade for like the first 2 rounds of this fight. And that's just going to be a problem when you've got one person throwing power moving forward and the other person throwing power off the back foot. For whatever reason, judges are just going to give it to the front. And before we even employed the new scoring criteria, Jessica Andrade would have probably won all 3 rounds of this fight. I mean, we saw Diego Sanchez just win fights running forward, getting punched. So that concerns me about Natalia Silva, but she's still really young. She's a hyper athlete. She's probably the fastest woman in this division. Incredible, probably the best athlete at women's flyweight in general. She looked really good. Andrade did look a little bit soft coming up to 125. I think she should just stay at 115. I feel bad for her because she's had all these issues with ex-spousal issues and then manager issues. And if she's not getting screwed over by this person, she's getting screwed over by this person. She seems to, kind of just got jerked around, for lack of better terms, for large portions of her career, which is a little bit sad. Jessica Andrade was ranked number 6 in the women's flyweight division. This is per the UFC. That's how their matchmaking is going to go. Sherdog's rankings incorporate all women from all fighters in general from all different promotions. I think she'll get a step up. Jessica Andrade is number 6. Maybe she'll fight a Macy Barber, another front foot marauder. I think she should fight Macy Barber, or the loser of Blanchfield and Rose. We'll see if, she can step her game up. I'm not sure what's going on with Macy Barber. Macy Barber pulled out of her last fight because of like an injury, some hospitalization issues, but then like within the same 24 hours, she's posting like training videos. It's really weird if you pull out of a fight and then within 24 hours, you're posting training videos, and then every day you post a training video. Like, why weren't you just like in a fight camp? Did you not want to fight that person? I don't know. Natalia Silva looked good. Andrade looked okay. They got the fight of the night. So 50 G's for those women. And that was the UFC Vegas Brady versus Burns card. Shout out to Sean Brady. He did win. Shout out to all the winners on the card. It was a decent fight card all around. But we're going to close up this segment of the show, and we're going to move on to What's Hot. Moving on to the middle segment of the show, What's Hot. We're here to talk about we're going to talk about the Sphere. I wanted my middle of the show segment to be about this because it is pretty interesting. Supposedly there's about 3,000 empty seats left at the Sphere because the pricing was just asinine. I don't know what production is going into this. We're 5 days away from the event. Recording this on Monday, September 9th. You listen to this on the 10th on Tuesday or whenever you guys get a chance to. Yeah, 3,000 seats. The prices have been cut. If they get cut any less, I might be taking some PTO and shooting down there. I'm only kidding. I would probably, as much of an MMA fan as I am, like, I would love to see like I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to go to the Miami Planetarium in downtown Miami, and we used to go do these laser light shows, like go to the Doors, Led Zeppelin, all that shit. I'd love to see like a Pink Floyd concert or something at the Sphere. Just give me that. I don't know if MMA is made for the Sphere. Should be a great show. I listened to an interview this morning where Dana White stated that the show is going to be like a movie with different scenes talking about combat sports in Mexico. I don't know if it's MMA or boxing or both, probably both, because there's just not enough history of MMA maybe, but I guess they could stretch it out. There's 10 fights on this card. It's going to be like a movie. I live on the West Coast now, but the prelims start at 4:30. The main card starts at 7. When this ends, I don't know, probably 11 my time. It'll be like 4 hours probably. The movie thing with the stuff in between the fights is probably going to be really great for like in-sphere viewers. For me at home and you guys at home, I really hope it's not like BK Whopper or the Grimace Shake commercials, or just like Forrest Griffin Toyo tires over, and at least let us see the movie shit. I don't know though. It's just interesting why they needed so much funding for this. If it's just a haul to get the place, I don't know. Like monetarily, is it just a big ass check you need to cut to get into the Sphere itself, or is it this like movie production that they've been working on for months? What if a fight falls out? Like, are you guys thinking this through? What if Raul Rosas' appendix blows up again? By the way, there's a very funny, I don't want to call it funny. It was a medical emergency for Raul Rosas, but there was this whole story they did on him having appendicitis with like his mother and father. I'm like, okay. What's that have to do with the fight on Saturday? I guess that's showing his resilience, but like he's 19. Like, what has the kid been through? Did they just like, what's the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you, Raul Rosas? Well, besides being called ugly, I had appendicitis. The UFC is like, good. We'll do a sit down with your parents. Like, that's not necessary. Come on. Like, you're promoting the fight by him having appendicitis and him having, he was such a tough kid. He just sat there with a stomach ache. Like, go listen to it. It's really funny. It's not funny. It's just funny that that's what they decided to highlight from his upbringing or whatever. Just like do something with his family, like at a family party where they're like having a carne asada and cooking out. Like, don't do the appendicitis, which is weird. I'm just super curious to see what this production looks like. This could be a one and done for the UFC, and I'd be okay if it was a one and done. Like, I'm an MMA fan. Feed me fights. I'd rather watch a 14 fight card with hurry up offense in between the fights, of course, rather than like a movie. I can do my own history lesson on my own time. Feed me fights, feed me good production. Don't feed me terrible commercials. That's for me personally. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Will the Sphere be a bust? Will it be an awesome show? We'll be here to talk about it next week. Let me know what you guys think, though. Moving on to the final segment of the show. In with the new, we are here to talk about UFC Noche, UFC at the Sphere. Gosh, This is UFC 306. Talk about the I was going to talk about a fight a little bit lower on the card, but I decided to talk about Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega. Two? Well, one never happened. One was Danny. But this is the second time this fight has been booked. Odds on this fight are... just 1 second. Diego Lopes is the favorite, minus 180. Plus 150 is the underdog, Brian Ortega. Both of these guys are kind of semi-similar in a way. Neither one of them are these impressive defensive savants. They're just all offense, all at all times, guys. Brian Ortega, his last time out, he looked really good. Coming back in his rematch with Yair Rodriguez, where he jumped, rolled his ankle in the first round, and he got bludgeoned in the first round of that fight, but came back, started whipping Yair's butt in the second round, and then submits him via arm triangle choke in the third round of their fight. Prior to that, he did lose to Yair, but that was in 2022, and then he did lose to Volk. That was in 2021. So this guy was it's crazy when you look at his record. Like, the Max Holloway fight seems like it was just 10 minutes ago. Quite frankly, it seems like about 2 years ago. If you thought it was 2 years ago, you're wrong. That fight happened December 8th of 2018. Since then, he beat Chan Sung Jung in 2020, 2 years later. He looked really good in that fight. And then a year later, a week under a year later, he fights Volk, loses that fight, gets beat up pretty bad in that fight, almost submits Volk, but still kind of gets shit kicked. And then again, another year later in 2022, he lost to Yair. And then now in 2024, in February, is the last time he won a fight. Well, finally, he's at least fighting more than once every year and a half, if you took an average. And he's fighting Diego Lopes. This is a guy who lost on the Contender Series to Joe Anderson Brito, who's gone on to be a freaking violent killer himself. But got to the UFC on short notice, fought Movsar Evloev tooth and nail. Really close fight where he kind of, Movsar was this undefeated monster, and he still is that undefeated monster, but kind of, showed some chinks in his armor. Crushed Gavin Tucker, knocked Sabatini into another dimension. That uppercut he landed on Sodiq Youssef, and then just had that, we're talking about 4 days notice, and how hyped that was for Cody Durden to be able to pull that off. Well, this dude, Dan Ige weighed in while the event was going on. He fought Dan Ige on 4 fucking hours notice. I was hypercritical of Diego Lopes in fight when that was happening. I don't think he looked good. He gassed out. He lost the third round to a guy that came in on literally, he was getting a massage. He got off of a massage table and started whatever little weight cut he had to do to make 160 pounds. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, but the guy Diego Lopes had to weigh in 3 different times. There was a whole entire shit show happening with Brian Ortega. Was he even sure that the fight was going to happen? I don't know. So I'm giving him a little grace for that. I thought the book was written on Brian Ortega, but I'm just consistently wrong about this guy. Really high level BJJ. He is not some control grappler. He is a type of dude that will jump guard and grab a guillotine. Will do a standing back take, flying triangles, flying arm bars. He is just a very offensive BJJ practitioner, the one that most of the people that are casuals would call wrestlers, grapplers, crotch sniffers. This is the kind of guy you like if you hate grappling. Willing to take 3 to give 1, willing to put himself in precarious situations to potentially get a submission. Look what he almost did to Volk. Before Topuria, this was I guess Max too, because Max dropped Volk a couple times, but Volk was on this crazy streak, and he was the closest to getting it done for quite some time over Volk until someone like Topuria showed up. at this division. Diego Lopes is a guy that is not defensively sound, but that's what makes him fun. He is a Brazilian that is also trains out of Mexico. He is Alexa Grasso's actually BJJ coach, high level BJJ guy himself, very active guard, violent submission hunter himself, willing to put himself in precarious places. Good fast hands, good power with his hands, good uppercut, very good in the clinch, very hittable, gets hit a lot. You know, when you fight like him, he hasn't been knocked out since 2018. He does have some knockouts on his record, but he got knocked out in 2018, and the time before that it was 2014. So keep fighting like the way you are, Diego Lopes. It's got you here. The UFC seems to love you. He's got the look, got the hair, got all the things. Fight like this, I just kind of think Diego Lopes is like the 2.0 version of Brian Ortega, especially over 5 rounds. There's the notorious clips of Max Holloway teaching Brian Ortega how to, use like a high guard and block punches and stuff like that. It's also the weight thing with Ortega. Ortega was, I mean, in a different podcast a couple of months ago, I listened to him do an interview with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, and he told them he was thinking about going up to 155 and taking fights at 155, and now this is back at 145. So I'm just not sure he's got his weight shit in check. I don't understand how the UFC has done all this production for the Sphere with the fucking movie and everything between each fights, and then you put Brian Ortega back on the card. Like, what if this happens again? What if Brian Ortega doesn't make weight? What happens to the movie? I guess it's in Vegas again, so Dan Ige can show back up because he's in another fight camp. Maybe Dan Ige will show back up on 4 hours notice, but I think this is kind of I love both guys, but I think this is a stupid fight to put on the Sphere because this fight could fall apart. I'm going to go Lopes, though. I just think he's got the faster hands. I think he's a little more violent in the pocket. I would not be surprised if Ortega just knocks Diego Lopes out. He's got good power, and Diego Lopes is just so reliant on being violent, like Steve Garcia, that he just puts himself on the line over and over again. I think he's going to be good enough to contend with Ortega on the ground and at least stay safe. I think Ortega is the better finisher on the ground and is a little more dangerous on the ground. But I think Lopes is good enough to hang with him there or at least stay safe. But I have a feeling that Diego Lopes is just going to go and get on the gas, get in the pocket, get an overhook, and just start fucking hockey punching Brian Ortega. And Brian Ortega's never been knocked out, but he takes a lot of damage. He's having issues with the weight cut. He's getting older. Lopes is surging. MMA is a lot about momentum. Give me Diego Lopes to win. Just going to win by decision. No one's finished this guy yet. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Alexa Grasso, the current women's flyweight champion, taking on the one of the GOATs, one of the greatest fighters ever, one of the greatest women's fighters of all times in Valentina Shevchenko. Odds on this fight. Grasso is a slight favorite, minus 130 odds. Shevchenko can be found at plus 100, plus 105, plus 110. The place I'm pulling odds from gives me about 5-6 different ones. Close fight. Really interesting that the UFC did a whole entire tough season and not one clip, not one. This just didn't need to happen. Just put all the tough fighters through the Contender Series. So who makes it, who doesn't. We'll find out in less than 4 fights if they're not cut out for the UFC anyway. This just did nothing. The last 2 seasons of tough, I just fast forward to the fight at the end, go to ESPN Plus, late Tuesday night, right before bed, fast forward to the fight, watch it for 20 minutes, and then go pass out. This fight is a very interesting fight because I think the trajectory of one fighter is going up and the other one is kind of going down. I also think Valentina's tricks and athleticism at 125 are catching up to her, where she's not the crazy best athlete in the division anymore, even though she's still an athletic freak. And just like her secret of being a really good control grappler, and I think her back foot striking game is just kind of withering. Even though in the last fight Shevchenko should have won because there was a incorrectly scored 10-8 round, which made this a draw. MMA decisions all have it scored like 11 for Shevchenko, 12 for Grasso, but they're scoring with the point deduction. They're required to do that. I score for Sherdog at times, and if we are required to take the point into scoring, so that's why it scored so closely. But Shevchenko should have won that fight, in my opinion. First fight, Grasso clearly won. Second fight, what worries me for Shevchenko is the fact that in the prolonged pot, like all of Shevchenko's like nifty back kicks, that's what got her back taken in the first fight. All of her like weird Superman punches, like Grasso can just cover up, use the high guard, stay diligent in the pocket, and just land crisper. And little tech issue there. She literally made Valentina like do a freaking whole entire backward somersault. Oh, I got the Outcast shirt on, matching all the purple shit. But yeah, I also Shevchenko's a violent finisher, and she can be, especially like on the ground, like with her mounted crucifix and shit like that. But I just think Grasso's gotten better at MMA, and I don't think Shevchenko's adding new tools to her belt. And I just think age is what's making her decline a little bit. Like her chin is just, she's gone toe to toe with so many people that I finally think it's like starting to catch up to her, where she's been like shocked by Alexa Grasso's ability to buzz her on the feet. And I think that's just because no one's ever been able to do it before. So when you got someone unassuming like Grasso pull up and start buzzing you on the feet, yeah. Grasso also has a really nifty back take game. And when you look at Shevchenko's MMA game, like go back and look at people who have exposed her. She almost lost the title fight. A lot of people thought she lost a title fight due to just giving up tons and tons of back control. After that, Tyler Santos lost to Aaron Blanchfield and then went to the PFL. She's fighting for $1 million in the PFL, and Tyler Santos should have never left the UFC. She should still be under the UFC roster. It's the UFC's fault they let her go. Same thing with Jennifer Maia, which is just weird. But that neck crank, it was a rear naked choke, but more of a neck crank than a choke. The way that she slapped that on, like with the freaking quickness. I understand the odds, and I agree with the odds. And I do think, really, Shevchenko is like, I lost the second fight because of a scoring error. And that's just not the best way to go into a fight. Like, you need to just go with the fucking clean slate. We've seen Shevchenko be salty after fights, after losses and stuff like that. Even though she is the ultimate sportsman, she's a true athlete. I really like Shevchenko. She's such a skilled striker. When it comes to Shevchenko, she does have such a high level kickboxing game, but I just think her speed, I think Shevchenko can take away the kicks, those spinning back kicks, and use them against her. Shevchenko blamed the first loss on a momentary lapse of judgment, and she was winning that fight, and it was a momentary lapse of judgment. But I think it's one of those things where, like, you got two cars that are racing, and like this one is just, Grasso's just slowly catching up. And I think by this third fight, we're cruising for like a potential finish. Will she be the first person to finish Shevchenko? Maybe. Could she get a club and sub? Maybe. I think she just has the bigger moments. Another thing about Shevchenko is her volume has kind of gone down a little bit. Shevchenko's keys to victory in this fight are just to keep this on the outside, try to get her ground control. She has gotten takedowns in her fights against Grasso. Don't go for finishing. One thing you got to love about Shevchenko is if she gets you on the ground, her ground and pound's violent. She's looking for that mounted crucifix. She's looking to finish. But now don't look to finish. Look to control. Get these takedowns. Take the wind out of Grasso's sails. She's the younger fighter. She's a little bit quicker. She's got faster hands, a little bit more pop in her punches. You need to take the wind out of her sails. Both of these girls have 5-round cardio. This should actually be a really good fight. This is going to be like the star of the UFC Noche because Grasso is from Mexico. I'm going to go with Grasso to get this here. Could see a club and sub. I just think that she's going to, the striking numbers are probably going to be super close to dead even, with maybe Shevchenko getting in some grappling. But I just think Grasso's going to have the bigger moments on the feet where she's actually buzzing Shevchenko. Could Shevchenko land a perfectly timed head kick and all of this shit gets crumpled up and fucking thrown out? Probably. I just threw paper on my floor that I need to pick up. Give me Grasso to win a really close fight where she just has the bigger moments hurting Shevchenko on the feet. We got the main event, guys. Main event, UFC Noche. We have the current men's bantamweight champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley, taking on Merab, the Machine, Dvalishvili. Both of these guys, the Machine is the perfect nickname for Merab. Like, quite literally, I don't know what the dude's made out of. He's just like a wind-up radio. Like, as long as you keep fucking winding him, he just keeps going. Odds on this fight. Interesting, because when these odds got released, like, Merab was like a 2-1 favorite. Currently, odds on this fight are Sean O'Malley is the -130 favorite. Merab is coming back as a +110 dog. I also understand the odds. This is a fucking cool fight. We got one dude that is like the longest, lengthiest sniper in the division, one of the most powerful punchers in bantamweight history, and probably the most accurate and slick puncher in bantamweight history, versus the guy that I mean, study Merab. I don't know what he's built of. I don't know if it's just like sheer willpower, or he's just got a screw loose, or he does have like some true athletic differences. Maybe it's all the above. Like, the dude jumps into frozen lakes, climbs buildings. I don't know what he's made out of. I would love to see how many pull-ups Merab could do in a row. Like, I'm thinking he could probably do like 60. Different body types completely on these guys, but they're both super good athletes. Sean O'Malley coming off of a really impressive knockout finish of Merab Dvalishvili's main man, his number one training partner in Aljo. Prior to that, he had an absolute war with Petr Yan, where I thought Petr Yan beat him. However, it was a very close fight, and most importantly, it showed me that Sean O'Malley did deserve to be in the place that he was in. And it showed me that he could be a fucking dog. And we already know Merab could be a fucking dog too. We know both of these guys are dogs. These guys are they're clearly the best two in the division. And Umar is number third right behind them, just because he hasn't proven it yet. But these guys have both proven they deserve to be here. Having that fight with Petr Yan and then just lamping Aljo, and then Merab's like 12 fight run where he's fucking, I mean, I've got Merab pulled up here. Like, John Dodson, Cody Stamen, Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo. Like, the guy's fucking just most recent, right? Like, Henry Cejudo, one of the best combat sports athletes in the world ever. Petr Yan, one of the pound for pound, was at one point one of the pound for pound ranked fighters, and is still very, very good. Jose Aldo, need I say more? Marlon Moraes, yeah, he went on a terrible streak, but at one point he was an absolute killer. John Dodson, probably the fastest handed, hardest hitting 135er ever, like next to Sean O'Malley. And you can keep going, like Casey Kenny, Tyrion Ware, Brad Katona, the loss to Ricky Simone, he should be undefeated on like a 15 fight winning streak. Like, he freaking knocked out Rafael Stotts in 2017. Both of these guys are really incredible. Sean O'Malley has proved that he can be a dog in a fight. He can get up from takedowns. He defended Aljo's takedowns. He crushed him when he tried to close distance into the pocket, and just blasted him with one pullback right hand. He's got really good vision. Look what he did in the freaking Marlon Vera fight, like that Cheeto fight where he just kind of beat the shit out of Cheeto for 5 rounds. In the end, though, he did take that knee where you could hear him, he heaved a little bit, but that's, don't let me act like I wouldn't be heaving, huffing and puffing if I got kneed in the stomach by Cheeto. Looking back at a similar opponent that both of these guys have had in Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley was forced to go tit for tat with Petr Yan and lose, in my opinion, even though he won very close fight, impressive fight. But Merab's fight with Petr Yan, like, if you're listening to this, listen to this show, please, and then go back and watch the Petr Yan Merab Dvalishvili fight. And then at the very end of the fight, he goes to shake Petr Yan's hands. He has Petr Yan. He broke Petr Yan mentally. I've never seen anyone do this to Petr Yan. Petr Yan is an absolute stone cold fucking killer. At the end of the fight, he goes to shake Petr Yan's hand. Petr Yan is still defending takedowns. He literally had Petr Yan shaking from defending the takedown. Merab is a guy, he has problems with getting hit with left hooks, and that's what concerns me in a fight like this. What did Marlon Moraes catch him and drop him with? Check left hook. What did Henry Cejudo catch him and drop him with? A check left hook. Both of those guys are really powerful dudes. Even Henry at 135, Henry is a dude that's got some hands. He's got big power for a 135er. Yeah, he's small in stature, whatever. Henry's got power. And both of them hurt and rock Merab with left hooks. When Merab throws his right hand, he does not bring it back up to his chin. He kind of keeps his right hand and his head up at all times because he's bobbing to shoot takedowns. But if you look at that Petr Yan fight against Merab, something that's not being talked about a lot going into this fight that I have heard yet is how Sean O'Malley just doesn't check leg kicks, and then how Petr Yan got fucking eaten alive by Merab's leg kicks. Merab landed tons and tons and tons of punishing kicks and decent power with his hands on Petr Yan. And you mix that in with all of the takedowns over and over and over again, Merab's going to walk into a counter. It's one of those things where, like, you know, and I use this movie 300 as a reference all the time, but not for the shadow of arrows this time, but for, if you ever watch the movie 300, they have their shields and they have to get close. And when they get close, that's when they open up and start effing people up. And I think that's what it's going to be. Like, once you get past the long spears of Sean O'Malley, Merab can get in and get his takedowns. O'Malley has good volume and he has good cardio. He showed that. But he has good cardio when he's pushing the pace. He has good cardio when he's controlling the center of the octagon. He has good cardio when he's winning. But how is this cardio when he's losing? How is this cardio when he's won the first round? He dropped Merab, but Merab came back and won the second, won the third. How's this cardio going into the fourth round? Say he wins the fourth round. How's this cardio look going into the fifth? We know what to expect with Merab. If you don't kill him, he will keep coming. And it's not just like random forward pressure. It's a ton of offense, a ton of different takedowns. Sean O'Malley has competed in BJJ outside of the UFC on UFC Fight Pass. Like, he's submitted Takanori Gomi. Like, he's got pretty good BJJ. He's got long, lengthy, you know, and I guarantee he's working on triangles and stuff like that with his long legs. But Merab's going to get buzzed in one round. Will he get killed? I don't know. But if he doesn't get killed, I just have to pick him to win 3 rounds just with forward pressure. And Sean O'Malley does not check leg kicks. Pedro Munoz and Cheeto had tons of success. I just think that the leg kicks and the takedowns, go back and watch the Petr Yan fight with Merab. Go watch Merab and Petr Yan, and you will see what I mean, doing the tape study on that. If he takes out Sean O'Malley's legs, there goes all of his ability to use his fancy footwork to get away from the takedowns. There goes all of his ability to plant and land power. I think the leg kicks are going to be a huge factor in this fight. I think they're going to be as equal of a factor as the takedowns. You add low leg kicks in MMA in 2024 can win you a fight. Ask Jonathan Martinez, ask Chris Gutierrez, ask Jan Blachowicz, ask Alex Pereira, and you start mixing in Merab's cardio, his cardiovascular abilities, his grappling, his output, this dude could land triple-digit strikes and double-digit takedowns in a 5-round fight. He's going to get hurt. Will he get finished? I don't know. I expect the first 2 rounds of this fight to look like a Sean O'Malley fight. I just don't know what the back, I'm going to say the first 7.5 minutes of this fight look like a Sean O'Malley fight. If it doesn't end in 7.5 minutes, I don't know what the other 3 quarters of this fight look like. So give me Merab to win a decision. This fight is such a coin flip. It's a tale of 2 fights. Like, one dude just walks into a shot and gets sparked the F out, or the other dude, batters the guy's legs and turns him into a takedown dummy. I'm going Merab. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm not 1,000% confident about it, but we'll be here to talk about it next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's the show. Check the kick. Sherdog.com. I'm the host, Devin. Enjoy the fights.